down?
You can just start whenever.
Okay, I feel comfortable with that. Okay,
Yeah.
good. Okay, so we've got Shuna Serrato, George Serrato.
And I'm Alistair Campbell,
From?
Black Horse Contracted.
Who's doing a wonderful job here at Cascadia Heritage Farm at helping us build a
HUPA,
which stands for
Heavy Use Protection Area. So this is basically an area with good footing that hopefully will never be muddy again.
And so we're videoing this today partly because I'm depressed. You know, we've got all the things that are happening politically with this virus, and I'm very anxious. So when I'm looking at this, I'm looking at this project we're doing. Alistair's doing a great job, which we really appreciate. But I figured, you know, in the midst of all this stuff that's happening in the news and in our lives, we wanted to take a moment to show you what's going on in our lives. And Alistair's doing a great job, but it is kind of a big mess currently. But it will improve, it will get better, and it will become this HUPA that my wife is hoping and will get.
Yeah.
Our ponies' hooves won't rot off. We'll have an area where we'll be able to showcase the Cascadia Dales ponies and be able to bring people to our farm. And then that'll be when it's not a big filthy mess. And we don't mind showing people a big filthy mess, but I think we'd be a little more comfortable showing them something that may be a little healthier for the ponies, healthier for their environment, and healthier for their preservation. And Alistair is really helpful in that process. So what's going well, Alistair, in this project?
So far, the ground is workable. The clay's not too bad.
Okay.
I haven't found that many big rocks. It's not raining, so
Raining
not
today.
fabulous.
And Alistair, I give him a lot of credit. It's been raining for the last 3 days, and he's been out here with his team. The rain. He's like the postman. Rain or hail or thunder. He's unstoppable. So we really appreciate your tenacity. That's inspiring to us. So we actually have some good. You're scooping off about 12 inches of soil, which is this whole area is how big?
It's 170 by 40.
So when you dig down a foot in that area, we didn't really realize how much dirt it would create. And we're going to show you how much dirt it creates because it's logistically it's important to know. So we'll show you. We didn't really envision that part of it, but you know, like I said, we're just trying to do something because we don't want to give up. We want to keep pushing through these challenging times. We have a mission here of trying to be appreciative. We want to try to preserve these critically endangered animals. We want to encourage hope. We want to continue to try. So,
And we appreciate that Alistair has a Dales pony.
Alistair, look at that right there. Boom, boom, boom.
Right.
A Dales pony right there. And just a brief story on your Dales pony. Tell us a little bit about your Dales pony.
So I first met Spencer when he was kind of more of a pet dog than a pet horse.
What does that mean?
He lived in the people's front yard.
Okay.
He went in their house, ate out of the sink, sat on the bed, played with the lawnmower.
Alistair, this is a truthful documentary we're doing here. We don't want lies.
Oh no, truly.
How can a horse get in someone's house?
They leave the door open for him. I saw him do it.
He sat on the bed.
And he slept in the bed?
When he was little, he did, but once he got bigger, he didn't really fit.
In the bed. He wanted to still?
Yeah, he
Tried?
Yeah.
Oh my.
And then I looked at buying him then, realized he was a little bit too much horse at the time for me.
Yes.
And then he went to MRC Ranch.
Yeah.
With their program, and he got trained, and some of his bad habits got fixed.
Okay.
And then he just kind of wasn't the right fit, so they gave him to me, and now he's kind of my pasture pet.
I'm going to add a little more truth potentially. Did he almost kill somebody?
Yes.
Okay. And that's kind of an interesting segue about Dales Ponies. Dales Ponies are extremely intelligent, wonderful, great all-rounders. And our 5-year-old son rides them, but they're extremely intelligent. So they need to be handled well. They need to be partnered with someone that can work with them, can be kind to them and thoughtful, and have a great partnership. So what do you say about Dales Ponies? Is that true?
Yeah, I mean, Spencer, I toss a bridle on him in the pasture, jump on bareback, go for a ride.
Yeah.
Haven't had any problems. Haven't ridden him with a saddle in probably 4 or 5 years.
Yeah.
No issues. Everything's fine. It's just you have to be the right match for the horse, or
You do.
or you kind of butt heads and it doesn't work.
Yeah.
Right.
And so can you
I
speak
would
to that,
just-
Shuna?
Yeah, I would say every interaction that these ponies have with any human being matters to them, and it affects them. And that's something to remember when you're thinking about partnering one with a beginner. Even if they're working with the trainer, most of their interactions are not going to be under the guidance of a trainer, and they really appreciate somebody who understands them and where they're coming from, and if you don't, you will often run into trouble.
So they're wonderful animals. That's part of the reason why we're in this mud pit currently, not that muddy currently, but why we're trying to preserve them, because they are wonderful creatures. They're wonderful animals, wonderful partners, and you know, and I think Alistair, you know, I don't know you that well, but I'm gonna hazard to say that relationship with that pony has made you a better person.
Yeah.
And I think it's doing the same thing for our son, who's started riding at 3 or 4.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's why we're interested in doing what we're doing here, is because we believe the world becomes a richer place by having these relationships that are not just with human animals, that it's with the or even with cats and dogs. Not to say those relationships aren't important, they are, very much so. But we believe that a broader set of partnering, a broader set of relationships is maybe the difference between life and death for a lot of us. And that's part of the reason why we've started this farm, is to try to embrace those relationships, those partnerships, and try to embrace being more appreciative. So anyway, so this is the big project.
Can I just say
you
one
certainly
thing?
can.
I feel like I sounded a little negative about them a moment ago.
Okay.
I will say I've never worked with a better breed ever in my life, and I've worked with a lot of horses.
And she's competed
Those-
nationally.
I have competed nationally.
And who's some of the trainers you've worked with?
I have not worked closely with any trainers.
But
so
you
that's
have
not a
worked with.
question for me.
Oh, you have. What about the guy you worked for 2 weeks for to get an hour of training?
That was actually Denny Emerson.
Denny.
I worked 11 hours for one group lesson,
Yeah,
and
so-
it was
so-
totally worth it.
And you've worked with Jessica?
Jessica Wisdom, yep. I
Yeah.
worked with Jessica Wisdom only by sending my lovely pony to
Our,
spend some time with her.
our,
No,
lov-
he's mine.
our lovely pony.
But
Two. And she said that he's a wonderful horse.
absolutely lovely.
Lovely.
Yes.
So we believe
and
that.
what she probably likes the best is his extraordinarily safe sensibility. So they're very safe. They're lovely to partner with, but you have to do it right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wonderful. You're welcome. You're welcome. So anyway, we're dumping a bunch of money out here, but the wonderful thing about this project is that the Conservation District, Gwendolyn,
No,
pronounce her name properly for me.
Gwendolyn.
Thank you. Gwendolyn, thank you. That's not very helpful. Gwendolyn from the Conservation District, we've been able to get a grant to pay for part of this, which is really making this possible. So we really want to encourage people to work with their local conservation district to get grants for protecting the air, the water, the land, and that includes, you know, creating HUPAs for horses so that they're not making big muddy messes where the runoff is causing problems with the waterways and such. So we really appreciate the help. So Shuna, before
They're
we...
also helping us with a manure composting facility.
Yes.
So we're not going to leave the manure in here. They'll be on basically a gravel footing, and we'll be picking it up very
Daily.
frequently, at least once a day, and putting it in a manure composting facility. So it'll turn into very useful material.
And just to kind of go back to the HUPA, so what have you've done a lot of research, you worked with the
Yeah.
Conservation District to do that research. I haven't been that involved, you've taken this by the horns. So what exactly did you learn about a HUPA? What are we doing here? Why are we digging in the ground? Why is there a big mess around here? What are we doing?
We are keeping mud from forming, which is very important for minimizing bad bacteria that will affect not only the horses but the water that drains from the area eventually into, you know, potentially people's aquifers or streams or rivers or ponds or lakes. So I think it's mostly a question of water safety. It's also a question of getting that manure, and so it's a little bit of a broader picture, getting that manure and turning it into something that is not toxic at all, but in fact very useful and ultimately helpful by helping to grow vegetables, which we've been using it actually over in our garden over there.
It's been phenomenal.
It's been phenomenal. Yes, it is very good stuff.
And that manure shelter you're mentioning, I guess, is then really intrinsically connected to what we're doing here, because we're creating a nice hard surface, which we'll talk about in a minute, but we're taking the poop off daily, the manure, and we're composting in a compost facility. So that bacteria can't form, and that it becomes kind of this potentially hazardous material if not in excess. If you leave it in excess, we're going to put it in an area where it can compost, hit temperatures that help kill bacteria, help break down nitrogen into different stages of nitrogen that are more usable and user friendly.
Yeah.
But that's fantastic. So why is Alistair out here the last 3 days digging like a madman? Why do we have to dig? Why can't we just throw some gravel down and call it good?
We actually, if we put down, say, road cloth and then enough gravel, we would be okay with that. So we could have started with bare earth and done that, but we would need to contain the gravel. So that could have been another option, would be to just build up instead of digging down. We chose to dig down, not realizing how big of a project it would be. I'm not sure that I would do it again exactly this way, but it is what it is.
To me, it seems like digging down and putting, if one can do that, if they can get funding, if they have deep pockets, if you can dig down, it seems like the earth is, we're going to actually put a wood border too on this, but it seems like you're really containing a lot of gravel. And it seems to me that if you did a ground cloth and less gravel, the ability to contain that material in an area, even with borders and such, it seems like it would get kicked out quite a lot.
It probably would. I think what we're doing will probably not get kicked out much at all.
It shouldn't really.
Yeah, it shouldn't. The one thing we could have done, which we could have done hoof grid, which is another type of material where you're putting potentially road cloth down, which prevents the gravel to get pushed into the dirt, and then you're putting it down a very little layer or no layer of gravel, and then the hoof grid.
You do a layer of gravel, I think 3 inches or so,
Okay.
then the hoof grid or similar material. There are a few of them on the market.
So that's
And
something
then
that.
more gravel, which you pack down.
So with hoof grid, what you were doing a lot of analysis. You found it to be more expensive at first blush than what we're doing here.
Right.
So, is it a lot more expensive, or what's your experience with hoof grid?
It's a bit more expensive than what
Okay.
we're doing here. We're using so much gravel and digging so much that the cost is not low on this. But it also, I like the idea of materials that are kind of part of the natural landscape. That's just something I like. So gravel is, that gravel isn't coming from our property, but it's rock that can be in the ground. It's not something you don't expect to be in the ground. So just feels a little bit more organic to me to
Sure.
use that than to put this grid material in, which might eventually someday have to be pulled out and
Thrown away.
thrown away.
Yeah.
Which I hate.
So
yeah.
cost points, being that we're digging a foot down, it may be that if we went down 3 or 4 inches and put gravel and hoof grid, the cost comparison might be very similar.
It might.
It might be similar,
Yeah.
but
The hoof grid material is expensive.
Yeah.
And this is a larger area than we'd initially thought we would
yeah.
need.
Yep.
We're accumulating ponies.
But I personally like your approach of having it being more of a natural environment and stuff that we can potentially add on too. If we find that the gravel gets packed down, we can
just
add
add more on.
more 5/8 minus. We don't have to dig everything up again. This should be something that will last a long time. I'm pleased that Chin has taken on this project and is doing such a great job. And Alistair is doing a wonderful job in making this vision come into reality.
Yep.
So one thing we could have done differently is that we did put in the fencing first. That's one thing we did do. We didn't necessarily realize how much material we'd be removing out of here. And so if I were to make any recommendations for future people, you'd say put the fencing in
You want to do your gravel and do all your earthwork
first.
because you can get bigger equipment.
Yeah.
It's cheaper to rent.
Yeah.
Bulldozers scrape all this off in one day.
Yeah.
Than renting a couple of skid steers and going at it for a week.
Yeah, so that's one area, and like I said, this is the first time we're doing it, and we didn't necessarily know how much we were going to really move out, and so that's one improvement that we'd like to share with people. Say, hey, if you're gonna dig this deep, a foot deep, make sure to do your groundwork first. If you were gonna just do 3 inches or so with hoof grid, then it may not matter that much because it's.
If all you're gonna do is grade the land flat and then pour some rock on it and do a hoof grid, the fence is fine.
Yeah.
That's pretty quick to grade around, but with this project where we're taking off a foot of land and with all the posts and the fence, it's taking longer trying to drive around all of it and get the grade flat in suctions than it would be to just go back and forth manually with a big machine and
Hey.
cut all of it down.
We live and learn, and I think it's going really well, and I'm really pleased. Let's meet one of your compatriots. Who's this guy over here leaning on the shovel? You look like you're working for the government over here, leaning on that shovel. So how do you like working with Alistair? Does he crack the whip a lot, or
No, not really. He's a really easy guy to work for.
Good. Do you feel like you're productive? We want to make sure you're productive.
Yeah,
okay,
definitely.
good. I like that. Productive. So
Thanks to him getting the new machines, we've been getting a lot more done way faster than we expected.
So how do you like? Why aren't you just on your computer right now? Why aren't you just making memes?
Well, mainly because I don't like doing that for one, and then two, I just
Everybody likes doing that.
I just not really into it.
Me neither.
I mean, I like looking at them, but I don't really like making them or anything.
So what's the second one I interrupted you?
Basically, I just want to make some money and stuff like that. Get my
course.
own house and all that stuff. I'm getting a new house Saturday, actually.
Oh, congrats! That deserves a handshake.
Congratulations.
Very nice. Where are you going to be living?
Up over in the middle of town at an apartment complex. It's right
Excellent.
behind SARS.
Excellent. No, I know exactly what you're talking about. And we didn't get you introduce yourself.
My name is Riley Ledford.
There we go. So no, so we really like these guys. We really like they're working hard. We really like to be, give people opportunities, and they're giving us opportunities by doing a great job. So we really appreciate it. Let's take a look at the massive material we have, just to give people an idea of how much material you guys have been pulling out. So let's take a look at it. Behind us, and we get the skid steers they've been using. I have a confession I want to make right now. I'm so, worried about the world. Right now, what I want to be is an earthworm. I just want to burrow into this mud. Is that wrong of me? Is that okay? So we've got a lot of rock here. A lot of rock. Juna, how much rock do we have?
126 cubic yards.
126 cubic yards. That's a lot of yards. How many truckfuls? 126 cubic yards.
I think it's about 11 truckloads so far.
About 11 truckfuls. So how many yards per truck?
I think they run about 11 to 12 yards per truck.
So roughly 20 yards. Cubic feet versus yards.
We're not talking feet. 126 cubic yards.
Okay, so 120 cubic yards. That's how many yards? 120 cubic yards. So this is
This is the base layer. This is not all the gravel.
This is only half the gravel that we're going to be using. So what's the size of this stuff?
It's 1 1/4.
1 1/4 is what the size is.
Yep.
And this is the base.
1 1/4 inches.
1 1/4 inches. So why do we put this down first, Shuna?
It allows for good drainage. It doesn't get worked into the soil below as much as some of the things it could potentially be. And it just provides a good base.
So yeah, so it's kind of. Do you have any specific knowledge about this material?
You can either get it with or without the binder.
We have it without the binder.
Yes, without the binder, it'll drain better. If you get it with the binder and you pack it with a roller, it'll become hard and you can drive on it. Machines won't leave tracks. It becomes basically a solid. And with the binder, water will just run off the surface. Without the binder, water will run through.
So it's a good base. It has no binder, which means little tiny sand or other small rocks, so that it will drain. So the idea with that paddock is that we're going to put the same amount of material you're seeing right now. We're going to get the 5/8 with no binder. Right,
No,
Shuna?
we're doing binder.
Are you doing binder
Yep.
at the top?
Yeah, and we
Okay.
want it packed.
We want it packed. Okay.
Yep.
If we want it to
be
drain
pretty-
though,
It will still drain.
we'll still drain.
It will still drain, yep.
Okay.
And
So
that may eventually work down into this material, in which case we may have to add more on top, but not nearly as much the second time we're going to.
So this will give our HUPA, our horse paddocks, that really hard, that really durable surface that will drain, and that'll be scoopable, and it'll be really protect the waterways, protect our animals. It'll be good stuff. So let's walk around this pile a little bit. So again, this is 120 yards.
126 yards.
126 yards, and that's only half the material. This is the base. We're going to be adding smaller stuff on top, which will be another 126 yards of material. So I'm looking at all this stuff, and I'm about ready to faint. It's just a lot of material. But these young, strong guys, they don't faint. Is it a big deal?
Scheduling wise, I wasn't really prepared to try and move this much material, but 10 yards of rocks and 250 yards of rocks, it just takes longer to put it from A to B. And
So you don't get overwhelmed?
Not really. It's just.
So you're saying
more
I'm a
rock.
wimp? I'm not even doing it and I'm overwhelmed. You saying that I'm a wimp?
I mean, I've been overwhelmed. When all this started showing up, I realized I got in well over my head, at least scheduling wise. And then we have this is going to end up being 170 to 200 cubic yards of dirt that we've taken out.
So we'll have a little less material we're taking out than we'll be putting in. So we'll have a little extra height. Does that sound about right? Or do you think
Yeah, and also because when we started with the grading, the area wasn't completely flat.
Okay, gotcha.
There's the ground contour and all of that, and we're not taking a complete foot off
No,
all of
that
it.
makes sense to me.
We're
Yeah,
taking a foot off the edges and then
then
cutting flat across between them.
yeah, that
And
makes
then
sense.
whatever that fill is going to go away.
And this, I mean, to me, this almost looks like we're at 120 yards.
This is more.
This is more. So how much do you think we have here?
I think we've got
170 to
probably
200.
150 to 170 right now.
Okay, so you guys have about the same estimation. So this is a lot of dirt. So what are we going to do with all this dirt, Shuna?
We are going to move it over that way.
Oh, my heart, my heart.
And
I just want to have hope. I just want to be appreciative. My heart, though.
we're going to use it to build up a little bit more area that's higher where we can make a small riding arena. It'll be approximately 60 by 120 feet, which is just fine for the Dales Ponies. So that's what we're going to do.
Oh,
We
no,
may move it
he
elsewhere
goes
on
here.
our property as well, our little one. We'll see.
We'll see.
Yeah.
But I guess in closing, I want to really thank my wife again for taking this on and kind of spearheading this project. Conservation District again, Alistair and your team, which you're just
Riley.
and again during these strange times, I think it's really important to try to be thankful, try to be hopeful, try to be appreciative. And it's something that we're trying to do here. Some days more successful than others, but I think what you do matters. You can make a difference, and you shouldn't give up. So thank you guys, appreciate it. Thank you Porter too for videoing
Yes,
it.
thank you, Porter.
And Vigo, thank you. All right.